Welcome to Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in. Hey, last night it was a 7-3 loss for the Dodgers. But hey, the Dodgers are 33-18 on the season. They're 8 games in first place, and they're 6-4 in their last 10 games. And as the caption in the thumbnail says, you can't win every game. Hey, there's going to be times to where you just don't win, and last night was one of those. So really, we're going to talk about the game. We're going to chew on it. We're going to analyze it because that's what we have. We're also going to go down on the farm and talk about Chris Newell. We're going to talk about James Outman down on the farm. We're also going to talk some Austin Gauthier, and then also at the AA level, hey, how about Bubba Alleyne? Bubba Alleyne has been playing very, very, very good baseball. So we have a lot of action to cover down on the farm later on in our show as well. A lot of fun stuff to get to. Chris Newell, by the way, leads the Midwest League in home runs. When he hits a bomb, he hits a bomb. Also, Alex Freeland. We're going to cover Alex Freeland again in our Down on the Farm segment. So, hey, we have a great show coming to you your way. We are setting you up for Dodgers baseball again. And, hey, call everybody you know. Get on the phone. I'm going to be, as you can see, I'm going to be by myself tonight. Austin is traveling, and so was not able to get a hold of him and get him on the horn tonight. I always miss it whenever Austin isn't able to come on because he does such a great job. So going to be by myself, and hopefully we have a good crowd tonight, and this becomes all about your questions, your question and answer. More so than that, it is just more about just us doing this together and having great conversation and great talk around the campfire Wednesday night in the big town on Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. So the Dodgers scored last night in just 2 different innings. They had 6 hits, and 4 of them came from 2 different players. Gavin Lux, who, by the way, I know his average doesn't look great, but he has hits in 4 of his last 5 games. He has hits in 7 of his last 9 games. So he's showing signs. I'm not trying to blow smoke here. I'm not trying to tell you that he's been great offensively or anything like that. I will say, though, that he has been great with runners in scoring position, and it's not like it's like 6 at-bats either. I mean, he has 32 at-bats with runners in scoring position. He has 12 hits. And so, although his average, which is a little bit over the Mendoza line, not the Jessica Mendoza line, but the Mendoza line itself, although he's hovering around that Mendoza line, he is hitting .375 with runners in scoring position. Now, I know his bases loaded looks really good, but really not a big enough sample size to be able to tell. And he has played great defense. So, Gavin Lux, he got 2 of the hits last night. And then also Shohei Ohtani, who had the double, then stole third base. It was kind of the old high school play. It's like the best player on your high school team gets a double, steals a base, catcher throws it away. You know, I used to always like to, in high school level, you see all the time. Of course, 2 of the cardinal rules of baseball is you don't make the first out or the third out at third base. The only out really you get aggressive going to third is with 1 out. You don't mind making this. Now, you don't like to make any outs at all, don't get me wrong. But if you're ever going to make an out getting thrown out at third base, it needs to be the second out of the inning because you're already in scoring position, right? Okay, so if you're at second base and nobody out, that means you can still score without a hit, right? If you're at second base with 2 outs, you're going to score with a hit, whether you're at second or third. And especially the higher level you go, the less likely it is they're going to make an error. So the less advantageous it becomes just to move up 90 feet. So I say all that long-winded to say, in high school a lot, you steal third, and especially when you have a hitter at the plate that maybe has 2 strikes on him or that maybe isn't a great hitter, and you're just hoping the catcher makes a mistake and throws it away. Shohei Ohtani was able to generate that run, and then he was able to drive the run in a little bit later. This has, of course, the Dodgers, I've mentioned it in the last show, the Dodgers did have the 1-6-run inning. They had the home run bonanza. But other than that, this is, and I'm not saying this from I'm a worried perspective. I'm just saying it from a facts perspective. This is just one of those periods during a season to where the offense isn't just absolutely clicking on all cylinders. I also think that has a little bit to do with Max Muncy. Now, Kike Hernandez, we all love Kike, but kind of like Miguel Rojas, I hear a lot of people say, well, Miguel Rojas is playing so well, get him more everyday at bats. Well, if you get him everyday at bats, now every time he's playing isn't an advantageous position for him. So likely he's not going to produce as well as he is right now. As a veteran, the older guys are able to understand the lack of playing time a little bit better, to be able to take advantage of because they're not trying to still prove themselves as a major leaguer. They don't feel like they're getting ready to get sent back down to the minor leagues if they have a bad patch, right? They're comfortable in their own skin. They're comfortable in the role, so they can just relax and take advantage of the good matchups they're given. So I say that about Miguel Rojas. I love the role he's in, where the Dodgers can put him in advantageous situations. I mentioned them yesterday, and I'm saying that to bring up Kike Hernandez. Kike Hernandez is hitting 147 in May. He's 5 for 34 with 2 RBIs, only 2 RBIs, 12 strikeouts, and an on-base percentage of just .293. Now, since May 16th, since he's had to play every single day, and I don't think it's the grind of the physical wear of playing every day. I think it's the fact that Dave's not able to, from an analytical perspective, only put him in against guys that he matches up well. So, since May 16th, since Kike Hernandez has been playing every single day, he's 3 for 18, and 2 of those hits came in one game. So that kind of goes to show you those auxiliary players like Kike Hernandez, Miguel Rojas, Chris Taylor, who has a couple of hits lately. Great to see that, because I mentioned the DFA thing. I just don't think that works, because I don't want him in the minor league system for the Dodgers taking away at bats from other minor leaguers. I would rather have him on the bench, strategically coming in as a defensive replacement, maybe has a good offensive matchup, that type of thing, where he's not taking playing time away from anybody at that point. So I think the Kike Hernandez thing, the Miguel Rojas thing, I think they work because they don't play every day, right? I think that is what makes them good, is that they get to sit around, they get to have fun, they get to evaluate the other team's pitchers. They get to already know, like, for instance, I promise you, before the game, Kike Hernandez, Miguel Rojas, Chris Taylor, they'll be in their meetings, and in their meetings, Dave will say, hey, Kike, you're going to come in if they bring in guy A, B, or C. So at that point, Kike Hernandez does his homework on pitcher A, B, or C for the opponent. And then whenever he looks at pitcher A, B, or C, he goes directly to the, let's say that pitcher A has a good left-handed curveball. So he goes to the machine, he sets it on left-handed curveballs. Let's say pitcher B has a good right-handed changeup. So he'll go to the machine, he'll put the machine on whatever level he can to get tumble to the pitch, some kind of downward movement. He'll put the top wheel faster than the second wheel or something like that. So as they know the matchups they are going to have, the 2 at-bats or 1 at-bat, whatever they're going to get in that game, they can then just go specifically go work in the cages on the exact type of pitches that they're going to see from those guys. And because of that, I think that makes a guy like Kike Hernandez that much more successful. When you're playing every day, like the Dodgers threw, 4 guys last night? I know Michael Gross struggled. We'll get to that here in a minute. It's just, it's information overload to try to do that against every single pitcher, because, first of all, you're going to know who the starter is, but you don't know how long they're going to go. So, yeah, you'll probably maybe game plan a little bit towards the starter. Well, you'll game plan a lot towards the starter. But then they have 12 other pitchers, right? Minus the 4 other starters. So they have 8 other pitchers that you have to, 7 other pitchers, 8 other pitchers, I should say, that you have to game plan for. Of course, you're going to know a couple of them aren't available that night. So let's say there's 6 other pitchers in the bullpen. You have no idea which ones are going to come in. It's information overload to think you're going to go and prepare for all 6 of those the way that you could if you know beforehand you're only coming in if this guy, that guy, or this guy comes in. So the preparation, the specified preparation as a starter isn't as exactly detailed, because it can't be, because there's more guys to prepare for. So when Kike Hernandez, Miguel Rojas can prepare for 1, maybe 2 pitchers a night, I think, or, maybe a full game to where he has a pretty good idea of the 3 or 4 guys where 2 or 3 days in advance he can start doing homework on. That's when they are at their best. Freddie Freeman. Hey, we have a good crowd logging in. What do you think about Freddie Freeman? Are you worried about him at all? He was 0 for 4 last night, but he is 5 for his last 15. The power hasn't been great, but again, he's a Hall of Fame hitter. He's Freddie. I would like to get your comments on all of those things. Hey, I told a friend the one player the Dodgers can't afford to lose, it's Will Smith. Yeah, we're going to get to him, Will Smith, next, actually. I'm glad you brought him up because Will Smith is simply fantastic. So how good has Will Smith been, both offensively and defensively? Will Smith has an 80% or better in all of these different categories, percentile. So when you look at all the hitters in the major leagues, Will Smith has been 80% or better than all the hitters in the major leagues at batting run value, exit velocity, barrel percentage, launch angle sweet spot, meaning the perfect launch angle that you can come off the bat whenever you combine that with your exit velo, whiff percentage, strikeout percentage, and base on ball percentage. He has been 80% or better than all the hitters in the major leagues at all of those categories. How about defensively? He leads the league in catchers caught stealing of runners trying to steal against them. Unbelievable. 77. He's in the 77 percentile of pop time. 192 pop time. Anything below 2 on your pop time is fantastic. You're going to have a hard time convincing me that Will Smith, when you're talking about a guy that's 80% better than league average offensively, not just of catchers, of all offensive players and all those categories I mentioned, and he has the highest percentage of caught stealing of any other catcher, and his pop time is quite a bit, when I say quite a bit below 2, 0.8 of a point below 2 is quite a bit in pop time terms. So he's quite a bit below that average league average of 2.0 pop time. You're going to have a hard time convincing me that Will Smith is not the best catcher in the game of baseball right now. Hey, we have a good crowd logging in. Get on your social media. Share the link to this. Get everybody over here. Again, I'm by myself. We need to get as many people in this lobby and in this chat, Dodgers Dogs, as part of the Dodgers Daily Network as possible. So we have a good crowd already logging in. Andy Pages. Are you worried about Andy Pages? Okay, so I know he went 0 for 4 last night, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and I'm going to go right straight to the part of his night that I was disappointed in. His last at bat, Andy Pages got 3 fastballs that were all just right there center cut. Okay, and I've mentioned several different times that Andy Pages likes to ambush the fastball. It's actually, I know Joe Davis has mentioned this several different times, it's actually been the fastball that he struggled on the most. And so I've mentioned on a bunch of different shows that hitting in the major leagues is all about hitting mistakes. So on the vice versa of that, not hitting in the major leagues is all about when the other pitcher makes mistakes, you're fouling it off, you're swinging and missing. You know when the other pitcher is center cutting fastballs and you're fouling it off, something's off at that point. That was Andy Pages' last at bat. He had 3 very hittable fastballs and swung through the last one, fouled off a couple. So that at bat right there, I'm not going to lie, was a little bit alarming. It was kind of like, that wasn't good. That was disappointing. But his other at bats, he had a 96.9 mile an hour fly ball. Okay, just to kind of give you, for instance, on all balls hit, 96.9 miles an hour. The batting average on those balls is 309. So more times than not, or as far as baseball terms go, I know that's almost a 70% fail rate. But whenever you look at a 70% fail rate as a hitter being a Hall of Fame type of result, 309 batting average on the ball that he hit, 96.9, the fly ball, is very good. Then the ground ball he hit, man, that was just a great play. 110 miles an hour. He hit that ground ball 110 On 110 mile an hour ground balls, there is a 718 batting average on all, but not ground balls, I should say. Every out of all the balls that are hit 110 miles an hour, there is a 718 batting average on those balls. 72% of the time, hitters hit a ball in the major leagues 110 miles an hour, it ends up a hit. So, kind of like what happened to James Outman, where early on, and go back to my article on Gavin Lux, and he actually provided a quote for that article. And the first thing he mentioned was, man, I would barrel up some balls, they would get caught, and it would frustrate me, and then I would be upset about the fact that I was out instead of realizing that hitting is very hard, and I should actually realize that just barreling up a ball is good enough. That goes back to having the quality at bats. So where the situation is for Andy Pages, if you barrel up a 110 mile an hour ground ball, a 97 mile an hour fly ball, and they get caught, those are the two at bats that you're supposed to get hits that night, right? I mean, the other at bats, you're not going to, usually you don't have four like great at bats a night. Sometimes you do, but not very often. So the challenge for him is going to be, okay, in those nights like that, how are you going to keep yourself from getting frustrated and like Gavin Lux did, back in 2021? How are you going to keep yourself from starting to press and starting to get into results mode like, damn, man, that should have been a hit. I'm snake bit. If I didn't have bad luck, I wouldn't have any at all. It's easy to get into that mode. Andy Pages has to fight that. What I can tell you is, Andy, of course, he's not going to watch this show. He probably doesn't even know what Dodgers Dawgs. I have interviewed Andy. I have communicated with Andy. He does follow me on social media, so he does know what Dodgers Daily is, but I promise you, he does not watch this podcast. So take that for what it's worth. But if I were to give advice to Andy, it would be, hey, keep hitting the ball 97 miles an hour. Keep hitting the ball 110 miles an hour, okay? Keep having long at-bats, and then what I would say at that point is you got to figure out how to hit the fastballs. If you're not hitting the fastballs, that's a problem, and that's kind of been Andy Pages as of late. I don't mean that to be negative. I just kind of mean that to be where we're at right now with him. So, Gavin Stone, what'd you think about his performance last night? 6 innings pitched, and he gave up, the magic. I said the 6 innings, 4 runs. The offense should cover it, and I do think the offense would have covered it. The Dodgers came back, and they got within the 1 run. Down what? At that time, it was it was 4-3 at that time. I'm having a brain cramp there. So it's 4-3. The Dodgers came storming back. They had all the momentum, and then the D-backs hung a 3-spot on Michael Grove. So I do think, I say that to say, I think the 4 runs in 6 innings was going to get covered by the offense, but I think that 3-spot by the Diamondbacks eliminated all of the momentum the Dodgers had. And sometimes amount of deficit changes the way that you play offense. So you say, well, the Dodgers didn't score again, this and that. Yeah, likely that could have been because you're down by 4, you change some things as far as your aggressive approach or the way that you do this, the way that you do that. And the next thing you know, because you changed that approach, now you're kind of going for boom or bust. It's like, I'll relate it to a wrestling match. It's like, let's say that you're in the 3rd period and you're losing by 9 points, right? And you got, say, a minute and a half left. Well, I mean, just from a time perspective, you're not going to be able to take your opponent down, get back points, take your opponent down, get back points. You don't have enough time to do that to make up. So really your only situation there, your only chance is to go with an upper body throw, try a headlock, and try to slam your partner to the mat. Well, the percentages of that happening are like really, really low. So it's probably going to happen maybe once, maybe not ever, right? So at that point, when you start playing offense like that, where you feel like, hey, 1 run's not good enough, 1 runner at first base, get a guy on, get him over, get him in, that's not good enough. You start playing for the crooked number in the bigger innings. Yeah, sometimes you get those occasionally, but most of the time they end up in zeros. So I think that's that 3-spot that the Diamondbacks put up really was the killer and the reason one of the reasons why the Dodgers offense went dormant, although we saw them go dormant even in the game on Monday. I mean, they didn't score, the last 5 or 6 innings? I think it was the last 6 innings of that game after the 6-run outburst. I can't remember if that was in the 3rd or the 4th inning. The games all start to kind of bleed together to me. So I do think the 4 runs that Gavin Stone, I should say, gave up in the 6th inning was going to get covered if the Dodgers did not give up the 3 spot in the very next inning. So, hey, we have a great crowd logging in. Get on your social media, shoot this out, text message this out, do whatever you have to. Let's get a good crowd going. We do not have enough people in this lobby right now for my liking, and so let's get them over here and let's get a great crowd going. Also, by the way, don't forget to leave a like and leave a comment. If you don't have your notifications turned on, make sure and turn those on. And definitely, if you're not a subscriber yet, what is wrong with you? I just joke, but make sure you're doing that. So we're having a heck of a good time Wednesday night in the big town on Dodgers Dawgs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Craig Osterberg, good evening. Dodger Blue 82, good evening. It's good afternoon to, of course, it is 7:30 my time. Craig Osterberg says good evening to everybody else. And so Craig says Ohtani showed off his full talent. No doubt he did about that. And there were so many different things that I knew Ohtani was good at. Honestly, I mean, I knew he could run a little bit. I had no idea how devastating his speed was, though. There's just so many little things that he does so much better than even I anticipated him doing. It's just a lot of fun to watch. Greg Osterberg says Kike is Dodgers' Swiss Army knife, and I think that's the role he needs to stay in. I just don't like him playing every day because then I think the matchups aren't advantageous like I was explaining earlier. And then I don't like him playing just at one position. I don't think that's what makes him good. I think that what makes him good is that there are a lot of different pitchers that Dave can look through his book and go, man, Kike has good numbers against this guy, has good numbers against, and he can find good matchups for Kike. And then because he can play everywhere, he can find a way to get Kike in that lineup against a good matchup because it doesn't matter who he's bringing him in for because Kike can replace that guy defensively. So the versatility, as much as being depth, it's more so Dave is allowed to, it gives Dave the ability to pinch hit Kike against whichever pitcher he wants because it doesn't matter who Kike is replacing. That's the biggest part of his versatility, and that's whenever he is absolutely giving, my opinion, the Dodgers the biggest value in terms of his production. Craig Osterberg, Freddie will figure it out. I like him better hitting in the second spot. I totally agree with that. Sandwiched in between Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani. I would totally agree with that. I do like Freddie Freeman in the 2-hole. Cheryl Razor says free Tarzan. Yeah, Borat Ohtani says hello from Kazakhstan, I think it is. Kazakhstan, I think. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce that. I apologize, Borat, for butchering that terribly, but thank you so much for joining. That is a wonderful honor to have you joining us tonight. Shang Jim Kim said this is Korea, and it's 9 o'clock in the morning, and it's really thrilling and fun to secretly listen to Dodgers Dog Podcast while working. Well, hey, I hope you don't get caught, and I hope you keep listening to the Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. And wow, what an honor it is, Song Jim Kim, to have you tuning in all the way from Korea. Wow. Thank you so much for doing that. So Borat Ohtani says, I only have the one internet in the whole of Kazakhstan. I'll record this show and give VHS to my neighbors so they can watch Dodgers Dogs. Wow. Holy wow. That is amazing. Wow. Borat Ohtani. That is absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for doing that. I hope the rest of everybody there, let me give you all a big hello. Thank you so much from right here in the United States of America, Dodgers Dogs, as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Thank you all so much for tuning in whenever time it is, whatever time it is. I hope you keep tuning back in. So privileged to have all of you guys and gals tuning in to the Dodgers Dogs. Thank you so much for doing that. Gregory, good evening. Our wonderful moderator is in the house. Greg Osterberg says, maybe Paez is tired. He did have a year off. Maybe needs a day off. Hey, that's a great, Craig, you always bring your A game. And as much as I've seen Andy Paez, as much as I've analyzed him and evaluated him, the one aspect of the whole thing is, well, yeah, he's tired. He didn't play all last year. There's got to be a certain amount of fatigue, especially considering that he's just 2 years in to losing the 25 pounds. I think that's absolutely a spot-on evaluation there, Craig. Not a night off to say, hey, you're struggling, we're going to give you a mental reset. Not any of that, because, again, he hit 110 mile-an-hour ground ball last night, a 97 mile-an-hour fly ball. But to say, like Craig is saying, hey, dude, you got to have some time off, man. You're wearing down a touch. And, by the way, Craig, it's kind of like a pitcher. So how can you tell when a pitcher is tiring? Well, it's like when they're not able to command the pitches they can command in their sleep, right? Well, I think the fact that Andy Paez is missing fastballs like he did in his last at-bat last night is a pretty good indicator that there is some fatigue setting in there off of basically the entire year that he didn't play last year. That is an absolutely spot-on point, Greg. Great point right there. Jerry Hunter says, I think the only reason Barnes is still on the roster is Kershaw likes throwing to him. I just think the Dodgers they have a trust tree. They have guys that are in what I call their country club. And I don't mean that in a demeaning way, but it's like an invite deal to where once you gain the trust of this organization, you're in that country club, in that cocoon, if you will, and they don't like to go. I mean, it's hard for them you don't get removed from that cocoon, right? So I just don't think they just don't want in any way, shape, or form to do anything that's going to have to remove Austin Barnes, which would be a DFA or a straight out release. And for what? And for who, right? I mean, who can you go get as a backup catcher? Now, again, don't compare Austin Barnes to starting catchers. He is a backup catcher that plays, every fifth or sixth day. What other catcher can you go get that is of quality to play every fifth or sixth day that actually is better than Austin Barnes? Who could you go get that could do that? Now, I know you could probably say Hunter Fiducia. You could say maybe Chris Oakey. I would not disagree with any of that. But as far as a major league veteran, you're not going to find a guy that is going to do more for your club from a mental perspective, and then sometimes on the field as well, than Austin Barnes that is of the level of playing every fifth or sixth day. That type of backup catcher. You're just not – the quality isn't as good as you think. And so at that point, why not just keep Barnes and let him play? And here's another deal. Okay? We just mentioned the Dodgers are 33-18. They're 8 games in first place. They're 6-4 in their last 10. But again, 8 games in first place. So you can play Austin Barnes however much you want. It doesn't matter. It's not going to matter in the NL West race. So you're going to be able to do that anyways to give Will Smith the amount of rest that he needs. And you're not going to want need Austin Barnes to play in the playoffs. Now, if you want to make the argument you don't want Austin Barnes on the roster because you're afraid that Dave Roberts will play him, I can't argue with that. But it doesn't matter if it's Austin Barnes on the roster or another catcher that's going to be very similar to his type of ability. Doesn't matter. Dodgers are going to end and win the NL West. No reason to make that stink. The question's going to be, is Dave going to play him in the playoffs? I think that would be the number one question. Hey, Jerry says he agrees with Craig that they need a day. They have a day off tomorrow. Ela Shiva, good evening to you. Let's go Dodgers. Absolutely. Hey, Craig says Stone was good. A little bad luck when batters put the ball on the bat, opposite of a couple of times with Andy Paez. So let's talk about Gavin Stone. Okay, so came out right off the bat, kind of like Yoshinobu Yamamoto did with a splitter. Gavin Stone came right off the bat and threw 3 changeups and got Corbin Carroll to strike out. Last 2 pitches to Marte were changeups as well, and then he went down and away to Jock. So Gavin Stone came out early and often throwing his changeup. It kind of as the dominant pitch that night. But I can tell you, I've said this many different times, I still think he is at his best when he's predominantly an east and west guy, and then using the east and west, when I say east and west, the sinker, which in my opinion was his best pitch last night as far as being able to throw it in the strike zone combined with not getting hit and also being effective in getting outs. I think his sinker was the best pitch. So I think personally he is best when he is pitching east and west and then using the north-south, an occasional high-riding four-seam, and then his tumbling changeup to play off of the east and west arsenal. The east and west arsenal being the right-turning sinker, the left-turning cutter, and then also maybe the smaller sliders every now and then. So I just thought Gavin Stone, if he would center around the sinker instead of the changeup, I think that's when he's at his best. I could be totally wrong. Again, the Dodgers have guys that are way smarter than I am, that dive into this, they do it for a living, that know all the analytics. So likely is I probably am wrong, and I don't have any data to back that up with. Other than last night, he gave up the home run on the changeup to Christian Walker, the two changeups, and he did not give up a single hit. Not one hit did Gavin Lux give up on a sinker, and then he only threw two cutters. So, I mean, I don't know. I just didn't think he threw a sinker enough. I didn't think he threw his cutter enough, and I didn't think because of that he played his changeup off of that. So because of that, he didn't get a ton of swing and miss. But all in all, he did go 6 innings. He gave up just the 4 runs, and like I said earlier, I do think the Dodgers would have covered that if they did not give up the 3 spot. Okay, Michael Grove. He gave up the 3 spot, and yeah, that's tough to watch. The thing about Michael Grove is he's only given up runs in what, 4 outings this year? Let me look at my notes right here. Okay, he's given up runs in just 4 outings this year, right? And in 3 of those, he's given up 3 runs. So it's like Michael Grove is either shutting the other team completely down and putting up zeros, or it's going completely sideways on him. So the ERA doesn't look good because he's had 3 outings where he gave up 3 different ERAs. But the organization, like 80% of the time, maybe even higher than that, has liked what they've seen from him. So it's a little bit of an enigma. So for Michael Grove to be the pitcher that we want him to continue to be, what he has to do is what all great pitchers have to do. You know, great pitching isn't about, well, how do I pitch whenever everything's great, right? If you can't get outs when everything's great, you're not going to ever make it to the major leagues to begin with, right? The guys that stick and the guys that become very effective for a long time in the major leagues are the guys that can go out and minimize on the nights when things aren't perfect. That's what Michael Grove has not been able to do so far this year. Again, when things are going good, he's been very good. He's looked simply fantastic. He's strung 0 after 0 after 0, but he hasn't been able to figure out at the major league level how to, when things start going sideways, just give up 1 run instead of 3, right? He hasn't been able to figure out how to do that. So I do think he's totally capable of it. I think the 1 inning thing is the right role for him. But that definitely, especially after the Dodgers came right back, got within 1 run, that definitely was frustrating last night to see those 3 runs scored and put the lead back out to 4, which made it very tough. Ela Shiva says, I'd like to see more Rojas. He is so good. I love Miguel Rojas. Oh, Miggy Ro, man, I love the way he plays. I love his leadership. I love everything about what he does for a team. Jerry Hunter says Grove had been throwing good since moving to the bullpen. Everybody has an off day. Yep, I agree with you, Jerry. The problem is his off days are always like catastrophic. They're like I said, out of the 4 times he's given up a run, 3 of them have been 3-run, 1 inning outings. So yeah, the bad days need to be 1 run, not 3. When Michael Grove can do that, he will then be not a good relief pitcher. I think he'll be a very, very, very good relief pitcher. Hey, Songjin Kim says 1 month ago, Dodgers plan to let Lux have 150 at-bats before reevaluating him. Now, He is not struggling. Gavin Lux actually has been doing quite a bit better. Gavin Lux, like I said, in his last game, he has hits in 4 of his last 5 games. He has hits in 7 of his last 9. He's showing signs that his batting average is coming through. His batting average with runners in scoring position is improving. So it wasn't a cutoff, hey, either you're at this point or you're at that point. It was, we need to start seeing if this thing is going to head north or not. I think Gavin Lux is showing enough signs, especially the way that he's playing defense, especially the way that he's 12 for 32 with runners in scoring position, and the fact that he has hits in 4 of his last 5 games, 7 of his last 9, and all of that. He's showing enough signs to continue. Coach Holt even mentioned this on the show that we talked about that with. That 150 is a suggestion, but if he starts showing signs, that could turn into 175, which could turn into 100 or to 200. So I think he's definitely showing enough signs to go right past that 150 mark and let him continue to try to adjust into becoming the type of hitter that we all hope that he will become. So, hey, we have a great chat logging in right now. Okay, Ela Shiva, we just read your comment about seeing more Rojas. Hey, Brett Rose, watching the outfield last night, Pages, Hernandez, Vargas, has me a little concerned about their throwing strength and ability to track fly balls. That's one thing about James Outman. I've been telling you from day one, going back to his days at Sac State, he has been a defensive first guy. Reggie at Sac State is a defensive stickler. James Outman has always been a tremendous, tremendous defensive player. And so, yeah, that's one thing that you lose whenever you don't have James Outman is very good defense in center field. So I think that definitely is a concern. I think Miguel Vargas has definitely a good enough arm to play left field. And I'll tell you this, if you put Andy Pages in right field and Teo Hernandez in left field and then put somebody else in center, yeah, plus arms everywhere, okay? Because Andy Pages doesn't have a good arm. He has a bazooka for an arm. Teo Hernandez is a good offensive player as well. So I think the loss of Outman kind of plays into that because now you have Pages in center instead of in right field and that kind of thing. So, you know, you're having to move guys around from those aspects. Michael Craywick in Thailand. Hey, Casey, our guy James Outman had a pretty good first at bat with Oklahoma City, 1 for 2 plus 2 walks. Yeah, he had a double down the left field line off of a curveball. We're going to get to that in our Down on the Farm segment. I hope he rakes down there. Gavin threw good stones, but not bad. Hey, Songjong Kim says, what a global Dodger YouTube. Let's go Dodgers, dogs. Hey, Infinite Dodger, thank you so much for joining. Please, Casey, please stop. Not sure exactly what that was in reference to. Hey, John Bland, Kike, more versatile defense and better than CT3, more clutch too. CT3, thanks for the great years. Need room for youngsters to contribute. Yeah, it's either outright release CT3 or leave him on the end of the bench. Don't put him in the minor leagues and take playing time away from minor leaguers. Michael Craywick, Glasnow will restore order. Agree with you, Casey. Do not make Rojas a regular. He's fantastic in his current role. I think the role is part of the reason why he is doing so good. I think when Kike is doing well, too, like we mentioned a minute ago, I think that's part of it. This good show, that's why no views yet, but very informative. Yeah, saying this is a very new show. Borat is saying, Jerry Hunter, Paxton has been great. My biggest surprise this year. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. I figured James Paxton with his pitch mix and just his veteran experience, I really thought he would come to the Dodgers and flourish. Yeah, Paxton has been a quite good professional, says Ela Shiva. Jerry Hunter says, what a difference a year makes. Teams were stealing bases at will last year, but Will Smith has stopped that. I mentioned several different times on the Down on Farms last year, the Dodgers were starting to pay more attention to that aspect of the game, and they definitely have, you can tell. What a difference a year make. Yeah, we just talked about that. Jerry, Ela Shiva, sounds like Evan Phillips will return soon. Which pitcher will they move to make room for Phillips? Who knows, man? I mean, you talk about JP Fireeisen, who has been just absolute nails. He gets option. And then you have Ricky Vanasco, who gets sent up. And before he ever throws a pitch, he gets sent back down. So I don't mean to punt that question, Ela Shiva, but I will say honestly, if anybody thinks they have a clue how the Dodgers are going to incorporate all the different pitchers they're getting ready to bring up. I don't know, man. I don't know how you could, because it's crazy the way it would probably be like Johan Ramirez or, an Eliezer Hernandez, somebody like that. That would be my best guess. But again, that would be a guess. When Muncy returns, who will they move? Probably Miguel Vargas would be my guess, because then again, Kike can play the outfield. But my guess would be Miguel Vargas. Bob Student 10, hey, Dawgs. Stone was unlucky yesterday. Grove is not a high-leverage guy. Song Jim Kim says, got it. And then Jerry Hunter says, I think Glass now has the best stuff. But before injury last year, I thought May had the best. I got to see May in Oklahoma City a couple different times. Gosh, his stuff is nasty. Okay, Infinite Dodger, the police stop was about reading Borat Ohtani from Kazakhstan comics. Yeah, please tell me you've seen the movie Borat before you're getting trolled, okay? I will do that. I'm glad you told me that, Infinite Dodger. I absolutely hadn't. So I guess I will stop reading those comments. So, yeah. Hey, that is all the notes I have. Those are all the comments that I have for tonight. And by the way, my Oklahoma State Cowboys just got on the JOB about 10 minutes ago. And so they are playing right now as we speak. So what we're going to do is we are going to go to our Down on the Farm segment, and we're going to talk about all the great action from down on the farm, and we're going to get to it from there. So what we're going to do, we're not actually going to cover Rancho. There wasn't a whole lot of great action there, so we're going to start with Great Lakes, and we're going to get after it from there. So here we go. Down on the Farm, you should see it right there. That is Chris Newell, who you're seeing on your screen. Chris Newell, this is a guy, I know Jay kind of compared him to Cody Bellinger, but I can tell you his barrel comes down forward. Bellinger, what happened to him is he got into that stretch mode and he started to try to stay behind the ball and lift. Chris Newell comes through the baseball quite a bit more than Cody Bellinger does. Chris Newell, I butchered this on the Down the Farm the other day, so let me say this again. He is the all-time stolen base leader for postseason in the University of Virginia history. Okay, he has like 50 stolen bases, something like that, all time at Virginia. And by the way, he has stolen a lot more bases this year as well. So this is a guy, easily, Chris Newell. I can't tell you about the batting average. I don't know what the batting average is going to look like. He hasn't hit for a high average as a pro yet, but I can tell you from a home run and stolen base perspective, this is a guy that could be a 30-30 guy if everything goes right. I think he will be a 30-30 guy this year. So far, he's has 11 home runs. I think he'll definitely be a 20-20 guy. Let's say that. And he's a fringe 30-30 guy. I talked many times to Johnny DeLuca about that. That's always Johnny DeLuca's goal. And he's always gotten hurt or he got moved up to the major leagues and didn't get that those minor league, which is a great thing, by the way. There's certainly no complaint to that. But then he never was able to hit those metrics, something he always wanted to do. But this is a guy, Chris Newell, that's definitely a 20-20 guy, fringe 30-30 guy. So league-leading Midwest League home run, 11 hits in 7 his last 8 games, 8 RBIs in that span, and he's hit 7 home runs already so far in the month of May. So there's Chris Newell. The next guy that I want to talk to you about is a young man that I really, really, really like, and this is why right here. Tyrone Lorenzo, 110 mile an hour single. The exit velos from this guy are insane. Look at that right there. And not only are the exit velos insane like that, 110 miles an hour, this is 106 oppo right there. Not only are the exit velos insane, let me show you this again, okay? Watch this. That's actually 104 off the bat right there. I said 110, but he does have 110 mile an hour single. It's not that one right there. So keep in mind, this is 104 miles an hour. What I want you to notice, look how easy this is. That is an easy 104 miles an hour. So the way he is able to get to his exit velos are, to me, fairly simply easy power. So I wanted to bring up Tyrone Lorenzo and talk about how well he is doing. He had 2 hits yesterday, second multi-hit game in a row, 4th in his last 5 games, and 5th in his last 7. He's 11 for his last 29 too. So Tyrone Lorenzo, average doesn't look great right now, but he is heating up, and he has the massive exit velos, and he has a sub 1.8 pop time in game. So this is Madison Jeffrey right here. I call him Rambo because I think he looks like Kurt Rambis, and he kind of has that mentality to him. So I call Madison Jeffrey Rambo, man. He's got that, see that personality right there. He's just full of just fire and brimstone and just loves to compete. Madison Jeffrey does. And so, yeah, I like to call him Rambo. And Madison Jeffrey, this is a guy that has touched 100. Now, I'm not saying that he sits 100 and even most of his pitches are even close to 100, but he can reach 100 miles an hour through 2 scoreless innings yesterday. It's all about the highs and lows. Whenever you have the stuff he has, the big slider, the 100-mile-an-hour fastball, capable of, the highs are always going to be really high, right? It's all about controlling the lows, kind of like we're seeing with James Alvin right now. We know the highs are high with him right now when he's hot, but the lows are too low. So for Madison Jeffrey, for him ever to become a major leaguer, he's going to have to control the lows and keep those lows a little bit lower than what they have been, because like on days where he struggled, it's kind of like we've talked about with Michael Grove. They were struggles that, like, you know, like he would give up like 2 or 3 runs instead of just 1. So wanted to talk about him. So another guy that is big in the system as we move up to the AA level, wanted to talk about him again. And this is Diego Cartaya, 106 off the bat right there. Diego Cartaya showing signs. I'm not trying to blow smoke. I'm not trying to tell you he's all the way back. Showing signs of rounding into form offensively. He showed off his arm. 1.9 on the pop time, which is very, very, very good right here. This is 1.9 right there. And I did this with my editing program, not a stopwatch. So I can tell you it is unofficial, but that absolutely is a 1.9 pop time for him. So Diego Cartaya, wanted to show you video of him. And here's another guy, you know, I've mentioned many different times, and we're going to cover him here in a minute, Jack Dreyer, the Maytag. But here's another guy right here, Ben Harris, that absolutely hides the ball. And if I can get to this, I'm going to slow this down right here. And I am going to slow that down to 1/4 of a speed. And I'm going to back this up. Now, let me show you right here. I know Fangraphs did a great article on this, but how he hides the ball. See right there how the ball's hidden? And my dogs are going nuts right there. I think there's somebody walking around on the outside. But okay, see how the ball's still hidden? And then the ball is still hidden, and then the hitter just doesn't see it until it's late. So the ball is invisible for Ben Harris. He has massive strikeout rates, but he's kind of like a left-handed version of Madison Jeffrey. His stuff is nasty, and when it's in the strike zone, it gets outs. But for Ben Harris, it's going to be all about, can he keep the ball in the strike zone enough? So I wanted to show you some video on Ben Harris and kind of show you that, hey, he's still grinding away at the AA level, still trying to figure out the strike zone to a certain extent. But, hey, that's exactly what the minor leagues are for, and that's what he's using them for, and that's what he's trying to get to. So let me get to now the AAA Oklahoma City Dodgers, or baseball club, I should say, and the guy that I want to talk about first right now, and I'm going to get to him here in a second. If I can scroll again, I'm doing this by myself, so it's a little bit clunky, but Andre Lipsius. Andre Lipsius is absolutely having a huge year. Continues to tear it up in 2024, no doubt about it. Okay, let me actually show you the video from yesterday right there. League leading 13 home runs. That one right there, that is home run number 13 he hit last night. He is 4th in the Pacific Coast League in OPS at 1028. He's 5th in the Pacific League in batting average at 331. He absolutely mashes, and kind of like Kike Hernandez, he can play all across about every position on the field. So if the Dodgers want to incorporate him into the major league lineup because they like the way he plays offense, they will be able to do that because he is versatile enough to where you can play him just about everywhere. And I'm super excited because I'm going to Oklahoma City tomorrow, and I am going to get to interview and talk to Andre Lipsius. Okay, another guy that we haven't talked about enough lately. We've talked about him a lot throughout the years on Dodgers Daily, but haven't quite honestly talked about him enough as of late, and that is Hunter Fiducia. Hunter Fiducia. This is a guy that is a model of consistency, having another really great year in the Dodgers system, hitting .284, OPS .844. Check this out. How about this for consistency for a catcher? Moving up the levels in the minor leagues, .287 in 2018, .275 in 2019, .254 in 2021, .279 last year, .284 this year. That dude is just super consistent. He continues to grind, and he is still waiting for his opportunities. Good throwing arm, not great. I mean, it's nothing just unbelievably awesome off the charts or anything, but it's certainly not anything that's bad that would detract for you wanting to bring him up. Look at that nice, sweet swing, kind of Trey Sweeney type of swing, very level, likes to use the middle of the field. So I love Hunter Fiducia. Here's another guy that has, this is Chris Owings, hit home run number 4. Back-to-back multi-hit games. He's hitting .283 in the month of May. Chris Owings says he made a nice catch last night. This is a guy that has a lot of major league experience. We know the Dodgers love. Now look at this swing. See how he gets the stretch. Nice, short, compact swing. The Dodgers love to have these quad A guys as depth that have major league experience. So I got to think if Chris Owings gets hot with the bat, he is going to be a guy that the Dodgers will definitely keep their eye on as depth. Now, I think it would take somebody or maybe a couple of guys even to get hurt from that aspect to get him up to the major leagues, but you never know. Wanted to show you Chris Owings, back-to-back multi-hit games, and home run number 4 last night. Another guy with major league experience that I wanted to cover, Jonathan Arauz. This is a guy, again, 234 major league at-bats. He's been the everyday second baseman. They played him in AAA at the beginning of the year over Austin Gauthier. He pretty much, I think, is the reason why Gauthier had to start in AA. And because he has major league at-bats, signed a minor league contract, off to a bit of a slow start, .226 batting average. But again, back-to-back multi-hit games, kind of like Chris Owings. If he gets hot, this is a guy that's a good athlete out of Panama that because of the major league experience and because, quite frankly, he's a good athlete, I think the Dodgers definitely will give him. So again, it's going to take quite a few injuries. It's going to take this or that, but they love to have these guys that have major league experience as their depth, and this is another guy that has it. There it is. There's the James Outman double down the left field line, and let me show you right here. It is a curveball, and he is on it right there. And what I want to back up, watch his eyes, okay? In my opinion, he just wasn't seeing the ball out of the pitcher's hand. I think it's as simple as that. When you're struggling like that, I always believe in simplifying, not adding. And so just watch. Eyes on the ball, simple, hit the ball. And he hit the ball where it's pitched, hit that curveball to left field. So really, really, really nice job by James Outman. Gus Varlin also came in last night and pitched very well. And the last guy I want to cover on the Down on the Farm segment tonight is Ricky Vanasco, if I can get to him right here and show you his performance from last night. He pitched for the first. Now, Ricky Vanasco was the guy that the Dodgers brought up, and then before he ever got to pitch, they optioned him. You know, they did that to Landon Knack a couple of times last year, put him on the taxi squad. So Vanasco, believe it or not, had not pitched since May 11th. His stuff is nasty. You see that carry, the arm side movement to it. His stuff is really nasty. Again, he loses the strike zone from time to time, but when he is in the zone, he is really good, and we saw it at the major league level. He was kind enough to provide a quote for Dodgers Daily about his major league debut, so that was really cool. So, hey, that is my Down on the Farm segment for today. I hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, Lipsius definitely has a nice short swing, Jay. Totally agree with that. Great dude, too, out of the University of Tennessee. Came to the Dodgers from Detroit. I'm super excited to talk to him tomorrow. I just absolutely can't wait. I remember Jock Peterson was 30-30 at AAA 2014. Songjong Kim, yeah, that was actually at Albuquerque. So I'll say this, Albuquerque, like when the Oklahoma City now baseball club goes there, it's always like 30-run games. I don't even cover the series because it's so ridiculous, the scores are. So the 30 for 30 guys that come out of Albuquerque, you got to take kind of with a grain of salt because of the altitude there. So the 30 for 30 in Oklahoma City is a lot more impressive than a 30 for 30 would have been at Albuquerque. Michael Tidd, Casey, why when we have a runner on third base with no outs, can't we get that run in? It's happened twice lately when you needed a run. Tommy would put on a bunt because the Dodgers just don't do that. Analytically, they don't bunt, and then they don't try to hit towards situational hitting. So an analytics expert, I guess you could say, if there's such a thing, would tell you that hitting is the hardest thing to do in sports, right? So if hitting is the hardest thing to do in sports, adding complications to that, like trying to tell a hitter where to hit the ball, what type of ball to hit between a ground ball and a fly ball, now you've taken the hardest thing in sports and you've added massive complication to that. Now you've made it so hard that it's incredibly difficult even for the best hitters in the world to do. That's what an analytics type person would tell you about trying to situational hit. What guys like us that have been in the game our entire life would tell you is get in the batting cages and work on it. Work on seeing the inside part of the ball, work on seeing the top of the ball, and hitting a 17 hopper to the second baseman to score that run. So I'm with you there, Michael. I totally wish the Dodgers would situational hit a little bit more. I'm not big on bunting. I don't mind, maybe bunting a guy to third every now and then. If you need one run to win the game, like an extra innings, you're the home team and it's tied, that kind of thing. I hate bunting guys to second base, but I love situational hitting to get them on, get them in, and get them over. Yeah, so yeah, no doubt, Bob Student 10. Tell that to Brett Butler. Hey, tell that also to Kenny George, who we have talked about many different times on this show. Hey, Nando 390, Grove and Lux, and a package for Bo Bichette. I don't think that would get it done, Nando. I think the Dodgers would definitely do that in a heartbeat, but I don't think that the Blue Jays would go for that. So, hey, this has been a great show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And, hey, our next show, we're going to probably put a show together in the morning. Hopefully Coach Holt will join us, and then we'll put a show together on Friday. I hope to have that interview with Andre Lipsius out over the weekend. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And I would like to, I just remind you to turn on your notifications. That way, every time that we release a video, you'll be notified. So until next time, I want to thank you for tuning in and say, go Dodgers.